Okay, so this video is going to be about everything I watched in the month of August. This is something I saw in a channel called Karsten Runquist, and I thought it would be kinda nice to have my own journal of what I'm watching to look back at later. Anyway, so I started the month off by watching the newest season of The Sandman. And well, for someone who doesn't have any clue about the graphic novels, I found it pretty good actually. They made it a bit more linear this time around, and you finally get to see what the other siblings are all about this season. It does feel rushed sometimes, but I guess they had to pack everything into this season before they got discontinued, so it kind of makes sense. I really wish we got a couple more seasons of this, but with everything that came out about Neil Gaiman, yikes. Anyway, then I watched City of God. I've been pushed to watch this for 2 years now, and I can see why. The film is gritty, the camera work pulls you in and makes you feel like you're watching it all happen in real time, and not knowing any of the actors really sold me on the realism of it. I've recently been thinking of when to personally call a work of fiction an epic, but whatever the definition might be, I just know that this film would really fit the bill. It also really made me want to watch Gangs of Wasseypur to see what kind of parallels there are between the two. Then I watched Elysium. Not much to say about it. I watched this with a buddy of mine for a watch party, and we had to pick something that was stupid enough to put on and not really think much about it. I quite liked District 9 and Chappie by this filmmaker, but this felt like nothing like the other two. It felt really uninspired, and well, my reputation for picking bad films for watch parties didn't really get any better. Then I watched Drop. This one wasn't for a watch party, I was just in the mood to watch some slop, and that's exactly what this was. I mean, I'm not hating on the idea. It is kind of novel to have someone get blackmailed through airdrops, but when you don't have anything to build on that idea for a feature length movie, it gets disappointing real fast. Then I watched the new Jurassic World movie. I have nothing to say about this. I just wanted something playing in the background while I cleaned my room. It's probably better without Chris Pratt in it now. It's just one of the Jurassic movies ever made. Then I watched Polite Society. I really like kids' movies when they're clever enough to also make it fun for the adults watching. This was not one of those movies. There's a very particular age bracket, I think, for this, and I'm not in that anymore. That doesn't really mean it's a bad movie, and it's always nice to see some brown representation. Then I watched Opus. I really hope studio execs understand just how tired people are of being fed the same recipe over and over again. I'm not gonna say anything more than that. This review sums it up more than I can ever say. Then I watched Weapons at the theater. It was good. I love that they're trying to bring back Naruto running after the whole Area 51 thing. It was also fun to see my partner trying to figure out for 2 weeks why Josh Brolin's character dreamt of a rotating AK-47. But yeah, solid watch. Then I watched Eddington. And look, I'm sure this says a lot about society if you're an American, but as just some guy in South Asia with a lot of South Asian social issues, I just really couldn't care about this. The people in my country will not think for more than a second to hand over their infants, even if it is for the vaccination of a disease they've never even heard of. This is probably just recency bias again. It's been long enough in America for people to not die of easily curable diseases like tuberculosis or cholera. So now I guess the time has come where they're starting to doubt the preventive measures. But over here, it's not really like that. It hasn't been too long since entire villages have been wiped out of very easily curable diseases. So they don't really feel they can afford to doubt when there's a legal mandate for masks or vaccines. But anyway, I'm just going off on a tangent now. Just really couldn't care about the movie much. Then I watched Love and Other Drugs. This thing I think has way too much hot people having sex in it to then try to have a meaningful message about Parkinson's disease at the end of it. And the whole thing about casual and meaningless sex that's being glorified in this movie feels very much millennial, and I can't really get behind it. Anyway, after that, I watched Superman, the new Superman movie by James Gunn. And yeah, it was a superhero movie. It's the same old Marvel recipe in a DC packaging. So I don't know what more to say about it. I didn't watch it at the theaters because it only releases in 3D here. And I really hate having to wear those stupid glasses for like 2 or 2.5 hours straight. After that, I watched The Assistant. It's a really slow movie, but it's very intentionally slow. The film does a really good job at building on the tension and the internal struggle the protagonist is going through, and it does a great job at showing us some of the subtle tactics employed by companies to keep people quiet. It's interesting to me that this came out in the same year as the movie Bombshell because I feel like they both work with a similar subject but approach it very differently. And I personally like the approach of The Assistant a lot more. Then I watched a mandatory Adam Sandler movie for the month with Just Go With It. This one really felt more like a punishment than any other Sandler movie I've watched in recent time. It's really hard to sit through the shenanigans of Adam Sandler's character in this movie. Like, I get it if you're just being obnoxious, but sometimes in this movie he's plainly just abusing a child. Like, there's this one scene where he chucks a kid from his back onto the ground face first. Like, dude, there could be, I don't know, sticks or rocks or pieces of glass in there, and the kid could get like very severely wounded. Like, no one would get away with this. But, with the power of movie magic and writing your own character, Adam Sandler manages to get everyone to love him by the end. I don't know, maybe this brand of comedy just isn't for me anymore, and that's fine. Then I watched Kramer vs. Kramer. This film really took me off guard with how good it was. I was going into it thinking it's gonna be just another run of the mill family drama, nothing special. But it was so much more than that. I don't remember the last time I got so invested in a movie that I started yelling at the screen and at the characters. But more than anything, I think I loved this movie because it made me realize I didn't have to watch slop movies just because I've had a tiring day. There are films out there waiting to have an impact in my life, and every time I'm putting them aside thinking I'm too intellectually drained for the day, I'm just eliminating any chance of a fulfilling movie experience. So, yeah, a wonderful movie. I would recommend anyone seeing this to watch it themselves. After that, I immediately went back to watching Slop again with the new Minecraft movie. But to be fair, it was for a watch party with a buddy of mine. I don't really have a lot of negative things to say about this. From the way it played out, it felt like they were quite self aware of how ridiculous all this was and sort of played it to their advantage. It was just silly overall, and some of the bits did get a chuckle out of me. It was just an entertaining watch. Then I watched Sony's new animated movie called Fixed. The story is about a dog who finds out he's getting neutered the next day and goes out on an adventure to commemorate his testicles. It sounded really funny and original when I first read the plot, but it just turned out to be incredibly sexually vulgar for a movie about pets. I mean, we've all watched films like American Pie or The 40-Year-Old Virgin. They also use vulgarity for their jokes, but this felt nothing like that. I'm almost convinced that this is just a homage to the Rule 34 and the furry community. After that, I watched Sitare Zameen Par. I was kinda disappointed with this. When I watch an Amir Khan movie, I expect a great story that's gonna be creative, original, and above all, entertaining. His movies usually carry a positive message for social change, but it never felt like virtue signaling until now. With this one, it felt like the storytelling came second to the message they were trying to deliver. And in my humble opinion, that's always gonna lead to a film's failure. It was just overall a very safe and generic crowd pleaser, riding off the success and nostalgia of the first movie. Then I watched the new War of the Worlds movie. Yup, that one. Anyway, Then I watched Clint Eastwood's Million Dollar Baby. I don't really go into films knowing about them too much, and that has led to some surprises, but this was the biggest of all. I just thought this would be a nice, wholesome movie about an older woman beating the odds in sports. Kinda like the Rocky movie, but it's a girl. It does play like that for some parts of the movie, but then it just takes a dark turn that you really wouldn't expect if you're anything like me and used to seeing more generic fighting films. It's just really well written and feels really fresh for a movie of this genre. I did die inside a little bit, but that just speaks to the film's success in this case. Then I watched Good Morning Vietnam. This, much like Eddington, I feel only speaks to domestic viewers in the US and doesn't really do much for the international crowd. It's also a product of its time, I think. It's difficult to understand all the jokes and references that Robin Williams is making. It also tiptoes around the anti war messaging and is quite subtle about it in comparison to something you'd see made in the 2020s. Then I watched Tomorrowland. It's a kids' movie, nothing more to say about this. I wouldn't mind showing this to my kids to maybe push them into becoming creative inventors, but that's about it. I didn't really enjoy it as an adult. After that, I watched The King's Speech. It was fun to learn about George VI's speech impediment. I sometimes struggle with public speaking too, so maybe it was a little relatable. But having the knowledge of the British manufactured famines in Bengal happening during this time, I really struggled to care about any of this. It's a really harmless movie, but the fact that it won the Best Picture award for the year, beating out films like The Social Network, makes no sense to me whatsoever. And last but not least, I watched the new release Together. It was fun. It's always nice to see new projects trying new things. Even though the body horror genre is getting a little crowded at the moment, I still really enjoyed the movie, and I think it'd be a blast for anyone watching it at the theaters with their friends or loved ones. This kind of makes me optimistic about the film industry for the years ahead. I'm really glad that the whole superhero thing sort of died out. And there were a few sort of gold rush moments, like with the Who Done It movies and the oh no, we're trapped by a cult movies. And this can technically be categorized as a cult movie, I guess, but it still feels pretty fresh. Also, Neon as a distributor is really coming up with some good films recently. I'm not very knowledgeable about the behind the scenes of the industry, but they feel like a younger A24 to me, and I'm also quite optimistic about that. Anyway, that's all I watched for the month of August. Maybe I'll make another one of these the next month, maybe I won't, I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. And yeah, thanks for watching.